Bore da pawb. Hello everybody and welcome to my wild Welsh garden on this fabulous last day of August morning. Little Cardiby, is he all ready on the lavender outside my back door? I wondered if you'd like to join me for breakfast in my secret garden. There are very few insects about, nobody on this buddleia. One little bee on the wild marjoram. Two little bees on the lavender. Three little bees on the lavender. It's still very quiet bird-wise. There was just a great flock of starlings and quite a number of corvids in the old ash tree up there, but they've suddenly all flown away. And no sight nor sound of the sparrows this morning. They're obviously out feeding somewhere else. But yesterday they were having a lovely time in the bird bath. It's too early for butterflies to come and bask here. This is where they like to warm themselves up on these cold mornings. But at last I've started to see some butterflies other than the cabbage whites in my garden. Yesterday I counted 6 peacocks. There's a little white buddleia down here, and they were feeding on that. Now things are warming up and the bees are getting busier. There's another one over there. So 4 bees on this little buddleia. But I think it's breakfast time, so I should go in and make my breakfast. A little flock of about a dozen sparrows have just flown into the hedge there, and there's just one that you can see that's acting as lookout. All the others are keeping very quiet down in the hedge. Yesterday a sparrowhawk came over and took a bird. I don't know what it was, so I don't know, perhaps the sparrowhawk is out hunting again. And talking about birds, those of you who were watching my videos last winter may remember that during the winter I'm visited by grey wagtails, and that's because the River Tower is less than 5 minutes walk from here, and there's a lovely place for wild swimming. If you're a wild swimmer, which I'm not, but my daughter is, And she visited a couple of nights ago and went into the river in the morning, and I usually go with her just to see what's going on. And there was a lovely view of a grey wagtail in its natural place. As the day warms up, there's a lot more insects around now and a lot more bumblebees. I think the bumblebees are making up for lost time. I went on my bee walk and I learnt to identify some of the more common species that are found around here. The little brown bees are common carder bees, and the stripy bees could either be buff-tailed bumblebees or white-tailed bumblebees. I also learnt to tell males from females. The females have pollen sacs, or sort of shiny parts to the tops of their back legs where they store the pollen, and the males have just hairy legs all the way up. And I've been looking at the bees in my garden. I'd love to be able to show you, but it's just too small to be able to film it on my old phone. But yes, I haven't actually seen any males yet, and I think that's because the colonies got going so late that they're not ready to produce males yet. And some of these bees are so tiny, and that's because of the lack of food. The less food there is, the smaller the bees that are produced, which just shows that this summer there's not been much food for them at all. And look what else I found. A lavender beetle. Lovely. Fat little shiny beetle. I've had lavender beetle on lavender in the past, but I've always seen them as pests and picked them off and squished them. But these are welcome to stay in my wild garden. I've started my nature writing course. We were asked to share some bits of nature writing that we'd done ourselves, but don't worry, I'm not going to read any of that to you. And the other thing we were asked to do was to read somebody else's nature writing. Well, that sounds pretty reasonable, doesn't it? If you want to become a nature writer, you need to do some nature reading. But I have got this book. I think I bought it when I was a teenager, to be honest. It's The Natural History of Selborne by Gilbert White. Very inexpertly mended with some sellotape. Yes, it's a very old book. It doesn't say when this particular edition was published, but the writings are from the 1770s, 1780s. And so, yes, I've been reading that. And I thought you might be interested in what he writes about slugs and snails. Slugs are shell-less snails, and snails are shelled snails. The shell-less snails, called slugs, are in motion all the winter in mild weather and commit great depredations on garden plants and much injure the green wheat. while the shelled snail does not come forth at all until about April the 10th, and not only lays itself up pretty early in autumn in places secure from frost, but also throws out round the mouth of its shell a thick operculum formed from its own saliva, so that it is perfectly secured and corked up, as it were, from all inclemencies. When I complain about the slugs eating my plants in my garden, people suggest that I put barriers around them, and I make a joke about slugs parachuting in, and I'm not sure people believe me. But look. There it is. Parachuting from my rose arch. And to end on a more attractive note, the sedums are out. And the fuchsias. So thanks for visiting me again in my wild Welsh garden. Thanks for watching the video. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye! Hwyl am y tro!